And welcome to Bayou Time. And as usual, on the weeks where we have council activity, there's always council activity, but a general meeting. We get Mr. Darren Guidry on. He's the council chair for Terrebonne Parish. Darren, good to see you. How are you?
Thank you, Martin, and like always, thank you for having us and allowing us to share what's going to be on our council agendas.
A lot of different things. It goes through the gambit this week, so we could talk about it. And just let the public know, we're all going to talk about what that vacant council chair is going to look like since the announcement by Mr. John Navy. So we'll talk about that later in the program. But you have a few things going on. Let's start with Glen Oaks, if we could. What's going on with Glen Oaks?
Yeah, well, tonight, of course, Monday night, we have our committee meetings, and we'll be in our Community Development and Planning Committee meeting to be discussing the dededication of the roads and utilities in Glen Oaks. As you know, most subdivisions, you'll build a subdivision, and then they will ask the parish to dedicate it or take over the maintenance. Well, this is the opposite. We have a neighborhood that wants to take over the maintenance and of the
Yeah,
roadways.
that is a little bit unusual.
Now, why would they do that? Well, it allows them to become a gated community. And so at night, they can close the gates and have a much more secure community. But we can't do that if it's a public road. And so they're going to maintain, they're going to take care of all the maintenance. All the roads have been repaired and they're in like new condition. Now, if ever 10 or 20 years down the road, they come to us and want us to take it back over dedication-wise, then they will have to bring up all those roads back to brand-new standards before we would accept it
You
back into
took
the
my
parish.
next question right out of my mouth. So if they chose as a organization or an establishment to come back, then it's on them.
We would send our engineering people out to assess all the infrastructure, and they would have to make any necessary repairs before it becomes dedicated to the parish.
All right.
So really no need.
Yeah.
I mean, if somebody else wants to maintain the local streets, it's a dead-end road, so it's not like it's not like it's a through street that we have concerns with.
But I don't see people jumping to do that. That's quite unusual.
That's a big task for a neighborhood to take on.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, so let's talk about on the budget and finance. I think y'all going to be talking about streetlights. Who'd have thought streetlights would be a topic of conversation? But people want streetlights, and they have been since the storm.
That's it, and the process is coming to an end. We're actually tonight going to award the bid for the repairs to the streetlights in Terrebonne Parish, or at least in the Terrebonne Parish Consolidated Government System. $1.6 million. It'll be awarded to All Star Electric. Now, the $1.6 million is just for labor. We actually have been stocking the poles, the lights, and everything else. So the utility department will provide the supplies. All Star Electric will provide the labor. And then what we're also doing is we have the FEMA engineers out now doing an assessment on some of the lights in the Entergy service system. The lights that have, there are aluminum poles or fiberglass poles that Entergy says is our lights. They're not going to replace them. We're currently doing an assessment, and we're going to hopefully come on the 30th of November with a change order to this contract, adding those lights. Of course, it has to be approved by FEMA.
Okay, so just to make everybody, the 1.6 million that All Star Electric, you said it's just for labor. You said, do we know how many lights are out? Does anybody actually have a count? I know it's pretty fluid when you get down to it.
Yeah, I know it's well over 1,000, and
It's a lot of lights.
it's a lot of lights. Now, understand this is just the aluminum and fiberglass light poles and the standard lights on creosote poles. This is not the decorative ornamental lights like on St. Charles.
Right.
That bid is expecting to come in next month. So this project here will start probably around the 1st of December. The decorative piece will probably start around the 1st of January. That will include southern states. It'll include some of those areas like Sugarwood, as well as St. Charles.
So we know definitely that the parish is going to be into this probably a few $1 million when it's all said and done.
definitely. You know, the parts is going to be a big issue. I
Right.
don't know where the decorative light bid is going to come in. Understand the decorative light bid also includes that company purchasing the lights, because the decorative lights are not something that we stock. So that's going to include the fixtures as well. So we'll see what that bid comes into in the next
Did
few
you ever
months.
think that part of your job as chairman would be contractor?
It's, you know, it's been a fight, but, you know, all hands on deck, you
Yeah.
know, staff, and they've worked very, very hard.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we still have the same staff we had before the storm. They still have to do their normal duties. Plus now have the added duties to totally rebuild not only the regular street lights, the decorative street lights, but understand we have to change probably 60% of the street signs in Terrebonne Parish, which is a whole nother project, and the buildings.
And I think I say that about council people, but I also say it about the general public. Everyone's really been forced to really be, because there's a lack of contractors, a lack of, I mean, now it's sort of stabilizing, but back in the day, you do it yourself to get through it, you know?
That's it. We're going to be discussing tonight of giving all of our starting firemen raises and adjusting all of the different salary schedules throughout the department. You know, I saw in McDonald's, they were starting people at $12 an hour, and our starting fireman was $10.38 an hour
For them to run into burning
for
houses
them
and
to
burning
risk,
buildings.
no doubt. Now, the benefits in the parish are very, very good. Don't get me wrong, but we're going to move that up to $11.57 for a starting, no experience, you know, just fresh out of a school firefighter. And so that's going to help us, I think. Now, granted, there's room for improvement, you know, as you get experience and as you move up in the ranks. And you also, our benefits packet is excellent, but I think this is going to make it much more competitive to attract firemen.
And for those who don't, I remember we used to do these segments with Chief Jerry Gotro. And he would put the suit on us in my earlier days. And we'd have to go through this simulated, the fire's all around you, you'd have to go through it. Of course, it's all designed to train firefighters, but until you are in a fire, and this was the closest I was because we were in the fire, but wasn't a house or a building burning, you don't realize what they go through. It's tremendously stressful.
And if you've ever been up next to a bonfire and you know you're close enough, you realize it's very hot. You have to start backing up because it's burning your face. Well, these guys are in that fire with all that equipment. Just imagine what that's like.
Well, I hope I don't have to. I had a big barn fire one time, and just to see what the fire department goes through is unbelievable. So that's a good thing. Let's switch gears. There's a bridge around the Broadmoor area that you all are looking to not only purchase the property, I guess, to make the bridge bigger, but the building goes with it, and there's a use for the building.
Correct. The Funderburg Bridge, we've been needing to widen that bridge for a long time. And in order to do that, there is a building right now, which was the location of Tradewinds Travel. Before then, I think it was First National Bank. And we're going to basically take up a lot of their parking lot along Funderburg. So the cost that we would have to pay for the parking lot in order to expand that, it makes more business sense to purchase the whole building because Public Works has a use for the building. And that way we have the property to expand it. And we also have a building to use in the parish for Public Works. That building's at the corner of Funderburg and West Park. And it was the location for Tradewinds Travel.
Yep, okay. All right, so let's do this. I want to morph into we're going to get to that segment I promised on District 1 Council, probably in the third segment, so we'll discuss that in length. But let's talk about, at the regular meeting, you're going to be talking about the Justice Complex that has been kicked around, rumored around, different things. Where are we with that now?
Well, at our Wednesday meeting, we will actually appoint an engineer that scored the highest on the FEMA scoring system that we have to use, and that's the Planis Design Group, to begin the architectural work on the Justice Complex. You know, it's a $5 million
It's a big
project.
Yeah.
But it has contingent upon FEMA approval throughout it. So understand, we need to get it in a package format that we can present to FEMA for approval.
Is it all FEMA monies?
This is, our district attorney was located in the Kirschman's building,
Mm-hmm.
and the Kirschman's building is no longer,
Right.
and so,
Damage, yeah.
and so we need a home for the district attorney. The court system's bursting at the seams because they don't have enough office space. This will also help our clerk of court, as well as perhaps, offer some options if the sheriff needs, part of office space. But we definitely we have outgrown our courthouse and our courthouse annex. And so we have
Plus,
these ancillary
it leaks
buildings.
a lot.
Yes, we have some ancillary buildings we need to bring in. I'm a big fan of not leasing property, but owning it. We need to get out of the property leasing business, and so this will help us.
What would happen to the old courthouse? Any thoughts yet?
Well, all the courthouses will be used. I mean, we will
Yeah.
expand,
Yeah.
because understand, all those offices that were at Kirschman's will then be located in this justice facility. We also are housing some of HPD. I don't know if you knew this, in the old Shamrock building, which is off of 311 around Capitol.
I did not.
And that, if you go look, you will see the emblem on it. But
But
that's,
the one by St. Francis, the actual facility now, that'll be refurbished or torn down, or do we know
I
anything?
don't know all the details in this, and a lot of it's going to depend on what FEMA provides. But FEMA tends to only replace what you lost. So a lot of it's going to be some of those Kirschman buildings, some of the offices, and some of that. Can it be a new courtroom? I don't know. I don't know all the details on the project.
To be determined and to be talked about later.
Yes.
All right, okay. As if y'all didn't have enough work to do, let's just lay it factually on the table. It's going to be a split, at least we think, unless we're all surprised. So you're going to be dealing with, I guess, what's the start? Applications that come in for, how do you start that? What happens?
Well, let me start by saying I know this was a not easy decision by Councilman Navy, and in my experience with Councilman Navy, he is very passionate about the people he serves, and he has done everything he could for his constituents. And so whoever replaces Mr. Navy, hopefully they're as passionate about that. But when there is an opening like this, and there is over a year in the term, because the term goes through all of 2023, so we're now a year and 2 months. So if there's longer than a year, then we have to appoint somebody to fill that seat until a special election is held. And so that appointment falls on the existing council, which then becomes 8 members that have to find a majority to select somebody to fill that 9th seat. And the way it begins is tonight we will introduce a resolution soliciting applications and opening up the applications for that seat. We will accept applications up through, I don't know, I think the 28th of November, because I think the 30th of November is our last meeting.
Okay.
And so on the 30th of November, we will actually make the appointment. And so I don't know what the deadline is to get it on that agenda. So they'll have to submit their application in somewhere around the 28th or by that Monday before our Wednesday meeting, if they wish to serve as an interim council member. Now, the interim council member is only going to serve for about 3 or 4 months, because we're going to call for a special election, which is also something on our agenda tonight. That special election will happen in March, and with a runoff in April, if necessary. I don't have I had the exact dates in front of me, but.
So let me ask you this, and the reason I say it, you may be confused at home, saying, why is he saying a 4-4 split? Just saying, pattern-wise, this particular council, and Darren would agree with me, notoriously known for 5-4 splits. It's not different than any other council. All the councils I've covered before, people get on certain coalitions and they sort of stick with that. None good, none bad, just whatever side you choose to be on. So if it becomes 4-4, then that's a little sticky. How do you maneuver through that as a chair?
Well, first of all, we look at the qualifications of the people who apply. Hopefully, the majority of the council members will look, and if one person is overly qualified over another, hopefully that is their main decision. If there's two people equally qualified, then yeah, it can be along political lines. Then you get into, if somebody wants to be a chairman of this committee, that committee,
Do they have to be from District 1?
they have to live in the current District 1 boundaries.
Okay.
Now, with that said, the boundaries of District 1 will change for the next election.
So the current
Next year.
District 1 right now.
Current District 1.
Okay.
Now, what happens if they live in current District 1, but they're not going to be in the new District 1? They can still run for that seat, but if they're elected, they would have to move within 6 months after getting elected into the new district.
What happens if y'all can't break the tie? Doesn't it go to the governor?
We have 30 days,
Okay.
and 30 days from the date in which Dr. Navy resigned, which was or will be November 14th, right? Isn't that today?
Yeah.
Yep.
I think so. Yeah.
So as of today, we have 30 days from today for the council to appoint somebody, which the only meeting we have between now and that date is November 30th. If we don't make an appointment November 30th, then December 14th, it's in the governor's hands to make that appointment.
And he makes the call, and knowing that the governor probably doesn't want to get in local politics, he probably calls Mr. Navy or a few people around it, or Mr. Dove or whomever, and starts making, puts him through some questions, and he makes the call. So this is going to be colorful, to say the least. And congratulations on being the chair.
Well, the good news is, or whatever, is I told them that, next year they'll have to appoint somebody else because I've done this for 2 years. So at least I'm not in the fray of somebody who is looking to be chairman next year. So I don't have to be in all of that scene going on.
Well, it's going to be interesting, but we look forward to seeing the debate on that, or the vote on that. And thank you again for coming. A lot of good discussions today on different things. We'll see you next time around.
Thank you, Martin.
All right. Once again, Darren Guidry, Council Chair here in Terrebonne Parish. And we'll see you again next time. Stay tuned on HTV for a lot more programming right here. We'll be right back.